Tonight's topic is, Hey Siri, are you my friend? Exploring artificial intelligence, humanity, and faith. While we hope this spurs wonderful conversation about AI, morality, humanity, and faith throughout campus, we want to begin that campus-wide conversation tonight. Later this evening, you will have the opportunity to participate in this discussion through our Q&A. Start submitting your questions right now by using the QR code or the link on the back of your program, and we will include as many as we can during tonight's discussion portion of our event. Before we begin, I'd like to recognize our sponsors for the Veritas Forum at Northwestern: the Office of the President, the Electrical Engineering and Computer Science Department, Religious and Spiritual Life, Chi Alpha, Church of the Redeemer, Crew, Graduate Christian Fellowship, InterVarsity, Reformed University Fellowship, and University Bible Fellowship. Now let's meet our presenters. First, I'd like to introduce Dr. Nathan Matias. Dr. Matias organizes the Public and Citizen Behavioral Science for a fairer, safer, more understanding internet. He is the founder of Civil Servant, a behavioral consumer protection nonprofit for social technologies and AI. Nathan is a postdoctoral researcher at Princeton University in psychology, the Center for Information Technology Policy and Sociology. Nathan's recent research has focused on preventing harassment, broadening gender diversity on social media, managing political conflict online, responding to human algorithmic misinformation, and auditing social technologies, studies that have collaborated with tens of millions of people on Reddit, Twitter, and Facebook. Before MIT, Nathan worked in tech startups that reach over 1 billion phones and helped start a series of education and journalistic charities. Nathan regularly advises nonprofits, including Christian organizations, on technology and the behavioral sciences and is co-author of a recent report on artificial intelligence and Christian thought and practice. Please welcome Dr. Nathan Matias. Our second presenter is Dr. Kristian Hammond. Dr. Hammond is a professor of computer science here at Northwestern and co-founder of the artificial intelligence company Narrative Science. He has spent most of his career focused on making machines smarter. In this work, Kristian's goal has been to humanize computers so as to stop the process of mechanizing people. We believe that a crucial part of this humanization involves teaching machines how to communicate with us. Most recently, Hammond became faculty lead of Northwestern's CS+X initiative and has been looking at ways in which computers and computational thinking can be used to transform the law, medicine, and nature of education. His mission is to integrate the best of computer science and artificial intelligence into all aspects of our lives. Please welcome Dr. Kristian Hammond. Our final presenter is Dr. Ágnes Horvát. Dr. Horvát is an assistant professor at the Department of Communication Studies and affiliated faculty of the Northwestern Institute on Complex Systems in the Department of Management and Organizations of the Kellogg School of Management. She seeks to measure, understand, and forecast the collective behavior of network crowds in large-scale socio-technical systems like peer-to-peer platforms. Her current research develops empirical and theoretical methods to support creativity and predict success in culture industries, identify expressions of collective intelligence and opportunities for innovation in crowdsourcing communities, as well as detect misconceptions and biases in online capital markets. Her work at the intersection of computational social science and social computing uses an interdisciplinary, data-driven approach and builds on techniques from network science, machine learning statistics, and exploratory visualization. Professor Horvát develops and teaches a cultural analytics graduate course that is designed to train students for careers at the intersection of creative occupations and data science. At the intersection of creative occupations and data science. She serves on the editorial board of PLOS Forum. Horvát has been the recipient of many fellowships and academic excellence awards, most recently an award from the National Science Foundation. Please welcome Dr. Ágnes Horvát. Finally, I'll introduce our moderator, Chris Ridgway. Chris writes and speaks at the intersection of technology and theology. He's worked at Microsoft Certified Consulting, a pastoral ministry, and academic research with the New Testament scholar Scott McKnight. He currently leads strategy and communications as the executive missioner of the Greenhouse Movement with the Anglican Church of North America. You can catch him in Chicago this month speaking on Is Technology Ruining Our Lives at Roscoe Village Open Forum May 9th in his forthcoming article in the July 2018 issue of Christianity Today magazine, Digital Privacy. Please welcome Chris Higley.
Good evening, my name is Chris Higley and I'm serving as a moderator tonight. And if you are like me, AI, artificial intelligence, is both an abstract concept, the stuff of Netflix, Westworld, and Battlestar Galactica, but it's also like a daily reality. At least something is going on with Alexa. I have two, one in my kitchen, one in my living room. And I'd be lying if I didn't say that I thanked her the other day for doing something for me. So maybe you have some of the same questions that I do. What happens if you make a computer as intelligent as a human? How do they know right and wrong? And as a person of faith, I wonder, how do I define myself as a human being if computers can seem to do all the same things? Irrational, have language, possibly even a will. So between TV and daily life, we want help sorting through this. And so I'm very glad we brought in this brilliant panel, Dr. Nathan Matias, Dr. Kristian Hammond, Dr. Ágnes Horvát, and they are all currently working with AI and can start by helping us think and sort through between fiction and reality. So the format tonight is that we will start with each of our guests doing a short presentation, telling us a little bit more, and then we'll spend 20 or 30 minutes talking together as I'll moderate a discussion for us, and then we'll have time for your questions at the end, and you already know how to text those in. So if we're ready, please welcome for our first presentation, Dr. Nathan Matias.
So we currently live in a computational culture where software and communication systems are a basic part of most of the things we do. Transportation, payments, health, news, relationships, mental health. And these systems work by recording our behaviors, coordinating billions of people's actions, and intervening in our lives. For example, Facebook recently began testing an artificial intelligence system to observe people's videos and private messages and detect who they think is at risk of suicide. Based on that prediction, Facebook's software suggests peer support and directs people to counseling services. Facebook's system is in many ways a continuation of the work of this person, Chad Vera, rector of St. Stephen Walbrook Church in London in the 1950s. Seeing people's troubles in post-war London, Vera applied telephone technology in a revolutionary way, creating the very first crisis counseling service, an approach that now serves many people worldwide. And for me, as a Christian who also studies the intersection between human behavior and technology, Vera's story inspires me and leads me to hope that Facebook's recent program could serve human life in a powerful way. One of my goals today is to ask how people of faith and all of us can support the Chad Veras of our time to bless society through technology. We also need to ask hard questions of these technologies. When the French government first considered banning pro-anorexia websites in 2008, they also were wrestling with the risks embodied in the everyday role of communication technologies in our lives. Internet publishers had made this material available, and search engines were sharing it with an eager audience. And when France and other governments held back, journalists and advocates began pressuring tech companies to do something. And in April 2012, Instagram responded to that pressure by creating policies and rewriting their algorithms to limit access to these materials. Almost at the time, in fact, Instagram had about 40 million users, almost as many as France's 55 million active internet users. Now, 4 years after Instagram first banned these hashtags, researchers at Georgia Tech conducted an independent evaluation. They found that in some cases, banning hashtags may have made pro-anorexia sites more popular, not less. The evidence is incomplete, but it's possible that Instagram's well-intentioned idea may have harmed more people than it helped. In my research in my nonprofit, I organized the public to do citizen behavioral science, searching for ideas that can benefit society online, discovering together what actually works, and auditing powerful technologies for their impact in our communities and our lives. Now today, before I say more about that, here are some ways to think about what we mean when we talk about artificial intelligence. Last year, some colleagues and I created an intro to how Christians might think about AI, covering topics ranging from counseling and justice to finance, fairness, and global cooperation. Here's how we talk about it. First, you should know that conversations about AI tend to focus on two very different things. Narrow AI focuses on very specific tasks. Here we've had steady progress on things like chess, where algorithms have gotten better and better over time. And there's been growing excitement. But there's also this idea of general AI, an adaptive machine usable for any cognitive task. And there's not been as much progress, though there is some excitement here, and also some hysteria. Now, as David Honey, formerly from the U.S. Office of the Director of the National Intelligence, says, narrow AI is useful if you want to make money, and general AI is useful if you want to make movies. Now, computer scientists define these things in different ways. There may be systems that think the way humans do, act like humans. Maybe there are systems that think rationally or act rationally. And of course, the way that you define a particular idea of intelligence will shape what you end up building. For example, in the 1990s, the Christian computer scientist Rosalind Picard, one of the pioneers of facial recognition, made the point that intelligence is more than just rationality. It involves understanding emotion. And Roz ended up launching a whole field from this observation. And her software, the company she's created, can try at least to detect human emotions from photos of your face. Now, how does something like that actually work? AI systems are trained with data sets like this one, called labeled faces in the wild. And if you show a machine learning system with lots of faces and non-faces, they calculate mathematical similarities and learn to recognize more faces. Now, these systems learn differently and slower from us, but they have more information to work from, and they can become very accurate over time. But when the information they have is a skewed picture of the world, like this data set of mostly white male celebrities, they can also make awkward and dangerous mistakes. This is my colleague, Joy Buolamwini. When we were students at MIT together, Joy had to wear a white mask in order to develop facial recognition systems, because standard software wasn't trained on and couldn't recognize dark-skinned faces. Now that's a problem because these machines already have power in society, and they're learning unjust human behavior patterns and ideas, what Christians might term sin. If we're going to make systems in our image, then we're going to need to recognize the harms, the injustices that they carry out, and find ways to steer them beneficially. So how do we go from something like facial or voice recognition to Siri? Typically, an AI product is a bundle of these narrow AI systems together with other software into some kind of facade. That's why we need to differentiate the question of intelligence from the performance that we see when interacting with systems like Siri. In the US, most AI systems are actually invisible infrastructure. They're calculating our credit scores, monitoring the messages we send to our loved ones, and deciding whether to let law enforcement know. They're deciding perhaps who gets into what school, who gets health care or not, which children are going to be paid attention to by child protective services, and potentially candidates for their parents losing custody. Different algorithmic systems also determine who is allowed to vote or not in different parts of the United States. And that's all happening for For every person-like facade, like Siri, there are hundreds of AI systems that are already shaping our lives behind the scenes as infrastructure. And here's how to think about it. When Facebook's machines read all your messages and watch your videos and decide that you might be at risk of suicide, it's acting as infrastructure. When people tell Siri about their thoughts of suicide, the system's facade is relating to them as a person. Now, of course, it takes a very different work to create those different kinds of software, but we should still be asking the same questions. Is this saving lives or costing them? Is it bringing us benefits or harms? What is it doing to our personal behavior, our societies, and our civil liberties? And those are the questions I ask in my research on behavioral consumer protection. With intelligent machines, it's not always possible to test their social impact in a lab like a crash test. That's why in my work I try to develop safe and hopefully ethical systems and procedures to test these systems in the wild, in our everyday lives, in our communities, often after companies have already put those systems out in the world without any kind of behavioral testing. Here's an example. If you ever clicked on a news link suggested to you by Google or Twitter or Facebook, you may have interacted with a machine intelligence called a news aggregator. Here's how it works. Someone posts a link, and then there are different ways that people can react to that link. And those different signals are observed by the news aggregator, which is typically undocumented and trade secret. And that aggregator makes decisions. What is it going to promote to more people? What is it going to make less visible to others? And of course, the things that get shown to more people get seen by more people who then respond more to that, and it continues to feed the system. Just about 2 years ago, I was approached by an online community with over 14 million subscribers who discuss world news, and they came to me with a question. Can we lead people to question news from inaccurate sources without causing that news to trend on the platforms and algorithms? And here's what they were thinking. That might seem like a bit of an odd question. So they were thinking, as articles come into their community discussion, people might be encouraged to fact-check those articles. And perhaps out of their goodwill and their curiosity, they might actually fact-check those articles. And there might be more conversation then about articles that were from unreliable sources. Perhaps then those news aggregation systems would notice this activity and interpret it as greater popularity. And they were concerned that that would then cause those aggregators to spread those articles to even more people. That this good behavior of questioning what we read might actually cause these automated systems to spread inaccurate news even further. And so to help them answer this question, I organized a randomized trial, where in some cases, as news articles came in, we didn't do anything. In others, we encouraged people to fact check. In others, we encouraged people to directly try to influence the algorithm and limit the spread of those articles. And we looked at the outcomes of people's behavior, as well as monitored the behavior of the news recommenders on the Reddit platform over time. Now, I don't have time to go through all the statistics and methods, but I found in this case that simply encouraging readers to do fact-checking, contrary to spreading it further, actually caused the news aggregator to make those articles less prominent, but perhaps only in those cases where we didn't ask people to directly influence the behavior of the news aggregator. This is just one example of the surprising things that can happen when you put humans and machines into contact with each other, and why it's important to monitor these things in everyday life. And that's the kind of research that I and my nonprofit have done directly with the public, independently from the tech industry for the last 2 years. We've done research that helped communities solve practical problems, as well as evaluate and audit the power of tech companies in society. And as I do this work, I often think about Chad Vera, who imagined new ways to serve people through technology. I do believe AI can help society do amazing things and care better for each other. Yet as we do that, we're going to need consumer protection research to notice and restrain harmful outcomes and to guide the wise use of the incredible power that comes through AI and other social technologies.
And now our second presenter, Dr. Kristian Hammond.
I'm now visibly becoming less formal. I'm going to talk today about machines, which is to say computers and people. It's important to understand that what I do for a living and what I do in terms of my passion is I build intelligent machines. I've been building intelligent machines since I was a child. I've been building intelligent machines for my entire career. At the core of me wanting to build intelligent machines is the basic belief that there is no aspect of human cognition that cannot be modeled and replicated, not simulated, replicated on a machine. And that's actually a driver. And I've actually always loved the promise of intelligent machines. Since I was a kid, it really is. From Robin the Robot to the Lost in Space robot, I always thought they were great. Even when they were trying to kill us. This is actually one of my favorite misconceptions in the world, and that is how. It was, I think, the first really visible popular culture machine or artificial intelligence that we knew was going to kill us. We just gave it some time, it would kill us all. And for me, it was always, no, he's not going to kill us all, because in this one instance, he had a mission, and he was actually trying to accomplish the mission, and no one told him not to kill us all. And so it was shot. For me, one of the fundamental things in the world is intelligence. Because I think there really are three big questions. First is the nature of the physical world. That is physics and chemistry. That is how all the building blocks come together. The second is the nature of life and how it arose. That is biology. Ecology, how things live with each other, evolution. And the third is the nature of intelligence. Those for me are the three big questions. I'm really horrible at physics. I never was interested in biology, but AI was thrilling. And I think one of the important things about intelligence is the nature of language. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about language, and I'm going to go and talk a little bit about the length and breadth of machines. In order to talk about language, I have to tell you a story. Now, the point of me telling you this story is not the point of the story. The point of the story itself is irrelevant. It's that it is a story. And it's the simplest story one can imagine. It's about my father. My father was two things. He was an orphan, and he was an archaeologist. And you can consider that for a moment, that he had absolutely no knowledge of his personal past, none whatsoever. And he became obsessed with uncovering the past. So you look at that and you realize that you have an idea of this man. You have an idea of what possessed him, what drove him, where the decisions in his life came from. And you have that idea in your head, not because an orphan and archaeologists by themselves as words, but because you know what an orphan is. You know what an archaeologist is. You know what kinds of pain and suffering are associated with knowing nothing about your family. And you know about the decisions that people make in life. And I can tell you this story because I know you know these things. And I know that you will take all these tiny little pieces of information, pull them together, and build that idea in your head based upon everything that you already know. And my point here is that language is more than words. And it's always important to understand. It's a matter of stories and connections and explanations. It's something that allows us to hook things up, and it is miraculous. And it is the hallmark of intelligence. Dogs, you can teach dogs tricks all you want. Beavers build dams. Crows use tools. But there is no other creature that knows how to tell a story, that can look at the world, figure out what's going on, and tell you about it. Of course, we got this partner. And that's the machine. Now the machine struggles mightily with language. And always has. It still has to a great extent. And so you might have Siri or Alexa or Cortana or any of the assistants that are being made available to us. But they don't understand language. They understand speech. They understand the mapping of words. But they don't understand how those words can come together except in very specific ways. And the thing that always amazed me is when you talk to people who are driven by this work, they'll always say, yeah, I wanted to build a system that was just like the computers on Star Trek. And I went back and I looked at the computers on Star Trek. And my favorite example is when Jean-Luc Picard goes into his stateroom. It's a hard day, it's 4 o'clock. He sits down and he looks at the computer and he says to the computer, tea, Earl Grey, hot. I want you to think for a moment about what would it be like to walk home, to go home and say to your spouse or significant other, tea, Earl Grey, hot. They would think that you were kind of nuts. Because that's not language. That is, from a technical point of view, a SQL query. There's no language there at all. And in particular, given that he's talking to a computer that's given him hot Earl Grey every single day for the last 4 years, you just want the machine to say, will you stop treating me that way? I'm more than that. So for me, language is a window on the world. And it's a language, it's a window that is for the machine locked in many, many ways. I'm going to give you one example of a place where it's unlocked. But it's important to understand that understanding language is not understanding words. It's hooking those words up to genuine meaning, genuine ability to infer, to draw inferences, to genuine knowledge about the world. And so I'm going to give you one tiny example, and this is I love this example because it is so striking. The city of Chicago has up and down the lakefront sensors in the water. And each of those sensors pulls in information about data about temperature, movement, particulate matter in the water, some chemical composition, wave size. They just pull that data in on an ongoing basis and hand it back to the central server. And then the city publishes this. And any given day in the city of Chicago, there are maybe 5 people who have a combination of an understanding of what water is all about and data where they can look at these tables and say something about what's true. 5 people. But you give that to a machine, the appropriate machine. And what it can do is it can look at that and it can tell you a story. And most important about that story is it can say, for the week ending July 16, 2016, 63rd Street Beach was the cleanest beach in Chicago as measured by the cloudiness of the water. Ohio Street Beach was the dirtiest beach in Chicago. So I know the best beach, I know the dirtiest. Much more important is I know that if I was going to go to the dirtiest, beachgoers would be advised to visit Oak Street Beach that had a better than average cleanliness rate, which is to say it's close to Ohio, but it's clean. 5 people can understand the data. In general, people can't understand data. Anyone who can read English can read this and take action in the world. And that is actually the sort of the power and the beauty of AI. To be able to take worlds that are to us alien and undecipherable and turn them into something more human. So with language, a machine can share its stories, it can free all this information, and this is my mind. We can stop humanizing, we can stop mechanizing people. That is forcing people to deal with things like data in its raw form by humanizing the machine and bringing it to us. Now for me, the important thing here is that cognition is cognition. Whether it be human cognition or machine cognition. But we have a very troubled relationship with intelligent machines. A very troubled relationship. And one of the things that's interesting about the trouble we have is that first we think they're going to kill us all. And it's hard to get along with something if you think it's going to kill you. Nowadays, it's not just that they're going to kill us, but even if they decide they're not going to kill us, they're going to replace us all. That we're all going to be put out of work. And so what we do is we fight against it. And we fight against it not by arguing against the reality, arguing against the incursion, but we argue against the reality of what machines can do. And we focus on the notion that we might have uniquely human skills. But for me, as I look at how we characterize the machine, that it's using these rules, which it doesn't really use. It uses these rules which are totally abstracted away from anything human. We're making a fundamental mistake. And we make that mistake because we don't like the idea. We just don't like the idea that a thing that can be programmed is going to be just like us. Because that kind of implies that we can be programmed. So we protect ourselves by figuring out what's special and what's different. But what is it that's special about us? Now, I'm not going to go into this in depth, but these are my 5 favorites in terms of what I keep hearing. Certainly emotion and creativity and humor. And we'll never have a machine that understands or is emotional, that has creative by itself. That understands or can create humor. But the ones that are really at the core of every argument that we want to make is that we are not going to have to worry about machine intelligence because they will never have intuition and they will never have consciousness. And for the rest, that's one of the questions I'm hoping to have people ask. There is one moment of ironic tension that I want to hit on, and that is the irony here of us protecting ourselves with intuition and consciousness is that the one thing in the world we are not conscious of, by definition, is our intuitions. So on one side, we want to be able to protect and embrace the notion that we can make decisions without understanding why, and on the other, we want to be able to say that we are conscious of, aware of our own place in the world, including our own place in our internal lives. And that ends up being the place where we hold fast. All right, we're going to stop right here and just skip those slides.
Thank you all for coming. It's such a nice event, such an interesting combination. I haven't met anyone during the past few weeks who would have said, oh, that's not a cool thing that you're doing. Everyone was, wow, that's fascinating. So this is an interesting combination, and it got me thinking a lot about the implications and the broader picture here. I'm going to talk to you about, I'm going to start with the key question that lies at the center of my research, and I'm going to relate it to this broader discussion of vision presented by Dr. Hammond to some of the aspects that already Dr. Matias spoke. So where do good ideas come from, and where does accurate judgment come from? So this is the central question of my research, and the goal behind pursuing these questions is to help people be more creative in their everyday lives, in their profession, if they are creators or artists, and also be better at decision making. And needless to explain that that's something that every one of us could use sometimes. So how can machine help us achieve this goal? In a world where we start to think more and more about artificial intelligence, where we see competition between humans and machines, chess has been mentioned already, but think about Jeopardy or AlphaGo. So there were several games in the past years that attracted quite a bit of attention and that showed humans racing with machines. And this is, of course, generating some fear that we'd like to address at the panel like this. So, is this going to lead to higher unemployment? Is this going to lead to raising inequality? Are these fears that we should be concerned about? I looked up a few pieces of actual research that have addressed this, and one piece that I really like is where people researchers gathered a few machine learning experts and AI experts and had them estimate a score for how optimizable a specific occupation is going to be within the near future. And while this question is debatable and experts have been proven wrong in many, many occasions, it's really interesting to see that, of course, text preparers have to fear this to a certain degree because that's a job that can be easily automated, but some other professions related to therapies and related to mental health care, so then you should be fine for a while. So priests, pastors have nothing to worry according to them. Okay, so if you are reassured, then let me walk you through two examples that pertain to decision making and to creativity to illustrate some of the biggest questions and some of the small steps that me and my research group are doing to address those questions. So the first thing that I show you is algorithmic trading. How many of you have heard about algorithmic trading? Okay, so quite a few. So this is something that investors are really, really interested about, and they have been since 2003 actually, and there's been a steady growth in the market volume of algorithmic trades versus human trades. So just one company trying to sell this idea, throw out the risks, and you are going to navigate to a life full of profit and no worries. Now, when me and my collaborators looked at some data that compared human and algorithmic trades within one single company, so bear in mind, and over 5 years leading up to 2013, we saw that actually this company didn't have too many trades assigned to algorithms, but that these trades were far more likely to be random. And our test here than human trades. And our test here was really simple. So we tested for the hypothesis that basically these trades, so these sequences of cells and pies, were statistically indistinguishable from a random walk. The way we try to think about random walk, think about the drunken person who tries to hit a target and then moves to the left, to the right, so it's a sequence of numbers generated randomly. And as you can see here on this plot, between 60 and 80% of these trades were indistinguishable from random sequences of cells and pies. So this is not good news. So what can we do then? So maybe full automation wasn't the best idea in this case, in this particular scenario. So let's think about other ways to make the problem easier and involve humans more in this process. So that's what we do here. So instead of racing against the machines, we propose to race with machines. And if you don't know this book, it's this one that you can easily read and you'll probably enjoy it. We'll talk a lot about the things that we mentioned here. So how about, in a proposal, how about we use the collective intelligence of some of the investors and combine that with algorithms that make the best use of that intelligence and help us predict what's going to happen with their investments. So a specific project that we worked on looked at making judgments about the future of investments in a crowdfunding setting, and the setting is pretty simple. So if you look at a project that builds bots and employs AI, and then you have another option that is a competing campaign or a competing startup, how do you decide where to invest your money? And it turns out that investors have, to a certain degree, good intuition for this problem, and if we use the intuition that they develop and we combine that with information about the actual startups and information about the dynamics around them, then the appropriate algorithms will have an accuracy that is a significant improvement over what has been decided by the humans alone. So in this partnership, we see that the combined human-machine systems do far better than
just the machines, or just the humans, excuse me. Now, how do we extend this idea? If we have these algorithms that can take in as many features as we can, meaningful features as we can provide them, then we can start to think about the networks of investors, we can start to think about the networks of projects, the dynamics of how information diffuses, the herding that is happening in these markets, and we can deduce features that inform our learning algorithms from these dynamics. And that's the next step that we are doing. On a totally different line of thought, and actually to address Dr. Matias' proposal that so we shouldn't always want to make money. All of you laughed about making movies, so I have a second degree in filmmaking, and as someone who has written scripts, I know that that's extremely hard. So let me show you a few examples of automatic movie making from the recent past. There's been at least one attempt to take in a bunch of film scripts, here sci-fi films, and build a new script based on those and just film it. So if you haven't seen this beautiful piece, it's a 10-minute video film based on the output of the algorithm. Take your time tonight, you'll truly enjoy it, and you'll realize the actual limitations in understanding language that have been mentioned also before. You also see that if you are not paying attention to the exact words, everything fits in a neat picture, and you could easily believe that this is something that's showing on TV. It will give you a good intuition for where we are now. Now, a very recent development is in something that Science, this is the major journal for scientific research, or one of the major ones. It announced a new algorithm that can create movies from just a few snippets of text. So I was really excited about this one. When it actually turns out that it solves, the article it refers to solves a very hard problem. It takes short snippets of text and turns them into video. Now this might sound easy for you, it's really, really not. So the state of the art that we are applauding here quite a bit is an example that's called, I'm showing you an example, titled Sailing on Snow, and you see here a GIF that is the result of the pretty involved algorithm behind it. So here you see someone sailing on snow. You could even say that this is a sign of creativity, right? So it's providing an image that we haven't seen before. Okay, but is it true creativity? So can machines produce original ideas? And this is something that is especially hard for many, many reasons. I'll highlight here three. So one of them is that we don't know a lot about how humans reach creativity. So even people who have spent a lot of time studying geniuses don't know what happens in their mind when they come up with that extra idea, with that great idea. There's also no agreement about what creativity is. So some of the approaches are based on the idea of recombination. So most innovation currently is a result of combining existing ideas. Machines can probably do that, but coming up with something novel and useful is really, really hard. Okay, so just, I know that I'm short on time, so just to summarize what my group is doing to add a small piece to this research, Dr. Hammond is figuring out the actual storytelling and challenges broadly. We are developing tools and algorithms that help with the script writing process. So it enables someone who knows some of the foundations, some of the rules behind scripts and working stories, to augment that knowledge with existing stories, snippets from existing stories, combinations, ideas from existing stories, and it also enables to get help from a larger crowd. When someone's stuck, get some extra ideas and find the most rewarding ideas in that specific context. Okay, so I started by is affected by AI, and this is a recurring theme here. So I felt like I should put here one last slide that also highlights the huge benefits of assistive technology. So AI, a tool that might, or a technology that might endanger some occupations, it's also a technology that is, for instance, a revelation for the blind through Alexa. So with this in mind, and as an opening to our discussion, I wanted to conclude saying that within our lifetimes, within your lifetimes, there's for sure a lot of tremendous changes that are coming your way. The question is, are we prepared to adapt to those changes? And whether Christian thought, Christian faith can help us defining how we are going to do those decisions and how are we going to adapt. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ágnes. And we have decided to be not fully formal, so we will go by Nathan, Chris, and Ágnes tonight. And so we have some time now to discuss the presentations. Thank you so much for giving us a little bit of an introduction to some of the concepts we need to understand this topic better. However, I'm going to go back to start with a topic that we all understand fairly well, and it's Facebook. And so one of the first questions I want to ask about is, of course, I was watching TV like many people were a couple weeks ago when Mark Zuckerberg, the CEO of Facebook, was sitting in front of senators, and there was a lot of questions about the news feed, and words like algorithms and machine learning are appearing. And for the first time ever, my mom said to me the word algorithm. And she wanted to know, are algorithms making ethical decisions for us? And so can we start with a question like that? And I don't know who wants to take that first. Maybe Nathan. Oh.
Sure. So thanks for raising that question. It's one that I've thought a lot about over the years because a lot of my research has looked at questions of online harassment or even this question of what information gets promoted by newsfeed or other kinds of news aggregators. I think these citizens are making consequential decisions that influence how we behave, how we become aware of the world around us. And I think it's right to ask ethical questions of them, political questions of them. And at the moment, we're sorely lacking as a society in the capacity to ask those questions in sequential ways. So it's reasonable to ask, is Facebook newsfeed shaping people's political beliefs in a particular way? Is Google search influencing elections? And there's some research on those questions, but we're very early in the kind of societal arc of figuring out how to ask those questions. And some of my colleagues are asking them, see actually some people in the audience who are pioneers in that kind of work as well. And we don't really even have the institutions we need yet to ask those questions in a meaningful way.
Can we even back up to an algorithm? Feels like a black box word to many of us. It's a thing that someone at Facebook is programming a thing in a computer, and then suddenly there's a decision being made. And we talk about it in a third person, like the algorithm made a decision. But then some of maybe the confusion or possibly even more outrage is people think an individual is making a decision. Is it possible to distinguish those?
There's an institutional decision that got made. So Facebook is based upon the notion that when you're on Facebook, Facebook will give you what you want. That's what it will do. And as a result, you stay there. And that's great. I mean, if I've got advertising and I get ads for what I want, that's terrific. If I'm interested in movies and I get a suggestion based upon my profile about what I want, that's fantastic. If I'm getting news and what I get is what I want, that is absolutely antithetical to the entire mission of the journalism industry. And so when you say is the algorithm, the algorithm is making decisions at some level, but the wrong algorithm was put in place. And it's interesting, there's a ton of, people talk a lot about fake news nowadays. And it's like, we're going to do fact checking and we're going to make sure that nothing is not true. It's like, good for you. That's not going to help. Because I still will be able to weaponize the truth. Because I can give you a piece of truth that's half the truth, that makes you think about things in a certain way. And the other half I can do anything I want with. And maybe someone tomorrow will tell you about the other half, but you'll already have the first half in your head, you'll already have an idea about it, and correcting that idea is incredibly hard. This isn't about truth and falsehood, it's about the weaponization, the direction of information by giving people what they want. But that's not what most of what we want in the world looks like. And so, again, it's systematic as opposed to the particular algorithm is doing something evil. I actually think Facebook is doing something kind of untoward. And I can't go beyond kind of untoward. But this started with Google News, where Google News would give you things that were similar to what you want. And you saw this, here's something that's similar. That was never what news wanted. That's never what journalism wanted.
Just to add briefly, I would caution against thinking about algorithms doing something against us or against a specific part of the population. These don't act independently. There's always an institution or a person behind them who is telling them who's the stakeholder and who's programming them and telling them what to do. And there's always a chance of a mistake that happens quite often, but in most cases, the algorithms will do what they are programmed and required to do.
Well, and I wonder, Chris, if I can follow up with you, because I know you have been helped the UN on a panel to think about how weapons and algorithms work together, or how decision-making is made about that, and it's more consequential than a Facebook newsfeed, perhaps.
Facebook newsfeed actually reshaped the political landscape of this country. The President of the United States, I would say, is absolutely the President of the United States because of a confusion in people's minds between similarity and irrelevance. So
that might be both powerful. How are you advising, or what are we saying? How do we program this to make ethical decisions? Or here's another way to say it. If humans, this is a negative way to say it, if humans aren't particularly ethical, do we have a hope of creating algorithms that are?
I actually think we do, but we have to realize that that's what we're up to. Many of the technologies that we see today are built on a substrate of a particular kind of machine learning that's called deep learning, where you give a system millions of examples, and it learns how to do things like recognize faces. And they do great jobs, but of course, if you give them examples that are faces skewed in one direction, it'll recognize those things. If you tag some people as beautiful and some people as not beautiful, it'll learn your view of beauty. The thing about those technologies is when they say, oh, this is flawed, I recognize this face, and you ask these systems, well, how did you do that? Their own knowledge of themselves, of the networks that they use to recognize these things, is zero. They cannot articulate what they're doing. That's okay if you're recognizing faces and you train things well. It's okay if you're recognizing voices for Siri. It's okay in a lot of places. But if you're making a decision, then no, that's not the technology. And in general, what I tend to do is say, if you're making a decision and you're going to be responsible for that decision, then you damn well better build a system that, as it makes its decisions, can articulate why. That's it. And if you don't, then what you'll be building is a black box. And people say, well, we'll just use it for advisory purposes. No, you won't. You'll get used to it and you just listen to it. And the problem there is the difference between a black box that you can have a conversation with and a black box that you can't have a conversation with is the difference between a partner and a bully. That's it. And the bully might be right a lot of the time, but you can never get to, you can never change it, you can't direct it, you can't listen to it in a good way, they can't listen to it.
We have something to add to that as well. So I think one reason we hope that these systems could have ethics or could be programmed in ethical ways is that perhaps we want to live in a world where individuals are making moral and ethical decisions, and that collectively creates a more ethical and moral world along some particular line. And those are important values to have in society. As a Christian, that notion that our own personal values are important, that we might make mistakes, and that we might need the help of other people, and even the help of a divine God to transform our personal behavior is fundamental to the faith. But at the same time, kind of baked into the very foundation of Christianity is the realization that we also need strength. So in the book of Acts, which is one of the founding stories at the beginning of the Christian church, there's this moment at the very beginning where the 12 apostles, the people who knew Jesus, whose lives were touched by him, they were starting this venture of a new faith. They were building Christianity, and they had this beautiful vision of distributing resources to people in need. And one of the very first things that happened in the system was that they were distributing resources in an unfair way. In fact, there was a group of early Christians who came to them and said, wait a second, you're discriminating against people who speak different languages. They may have been unconscious, maybe they were more likely to just serve people who were closer to them in culture. They may have had more burden to reach and find these people. We don't know why, but there was this moment of accountability. This moment where the founding figures of Christianity, and many people think of as saints, actually admitted they were wrong. They submitted themselves to a collective vote of the early Christians, and they restructured how they worked as a faith community. That's one of the core stories of the Christian message. And I think as we even yearn for people or systems or machines that can make wise, moral, or ethical decisions, there may be things we can do to train them to be wiser. But we still need the accountability of others around us, whether that's within the church community or whether that's within the political systems that we build in society. And I think that's a helpful reminder, particularly for people of faith, to look for those internal measures of goodness, also introduce those things.
Mm-hmm. And it sounds like you're talking about almost a compassion and forgiveness in the story of Acts. And I wonder how that even relates to what we build. Chris, I found this quote from you that you wrote just a little bit last year. You had said, I am less concerned about robots doing wrong and more concerned about the moment they look at us and are appalled at how often we fail to do right.
Yeah. So I'll give two quick examples. When you give people surveys about self-driving cars, and you give them a variant of what's called a trolley car example, and you say, imagine you've got a car that's driving down the street, and it's got one person as a passenger, and there are 5 people in front of it, and you realize it's going to hit those 5 people, and the only way you can avoid hitting those people is by turning into a tree or a pylon or whatever, and they will kill, the car will end up killing the passenger. Should it do that? And most people do the math, and it's like the trolley car example, where most people actually say yes. Yes, it should do that. It should say 5 to 1. All things being equal, 5 to 1, it should do that. And then you ask the question, would you buy that car? No. No, I want a car that protects me. That's all about me. That's all about me. And we are, we want to protect ourselves, our tribes, as we start thinking about how to structure the moral structure of a machine, we might want to avoid that. And actually, my favorite pop culture example is a slide of the movie I, Robot. From Peter Storm's point of view, it's a horrifically bad movie. But his robots are everywhere, but there's this one robot who is taught how to be more human. look, you're not like the rest of the robots. And then the big master AI takes over the entire world and decides to protect people by not letting us do anything. And then Will Smith and the robot we all love go to destroy the AI and save humanity. Now, it also happens to be that Will Smith's new girlfriend is there. And they're climbing to destroy the AI. And the girlfriend is being attacked by other robots. And Will Smith turns to the new human robot now and says, You save the girl. I'll destroy the AI. And the new robot, who's more human, says, yes, I'll save the girl. Because that's a good thing to do. And everyone applauds, and Will Smith destroys the AI. The robot should look at him and go, are you out of your mind? This is an existential crisis. All of humanity is at risk, and you want me to spend, we want to cut our resources in half? I can help you save us all. What you're doing is selfish and immoral and tribal and based upon you want to save someone who you like a lot. And it's in that moment, because nobody, actually one of those things at the end, nobody talks about how incredibly immoral this robot was. Or Will Smith for that matter, because they win, because it was written that way. But this notion that, the humanizing of the robot made it less moral than it could have been. And again, the big AI that takes over the world, you just have to explain to it doesn't work out. I think that actually it should be able to think it through itself. But I think it's example after example after example of that, where we, either as individuals or collectively, keep making these same mistakes that feel tribal, that are about our queasiness about doing things, and the machines, we don't want them to do that. We want them to have some clarity of thought. And they would make sure everybody got food. I mean, that's the thing.
So can robots be more ethical than humans? We're using robots colloquially.
I'll tell you about the UN thing. We had a moment where we were talking about proportional response to attacks. And people said, well, of course, a machine would never do that. You'd never want a machine to do that. You want that to be a human to do that. And I was like, no, actually, I prefer a machine to do that. To actually understand the calculations and do that. And they were like, no, there's respect for life and, empathy and all these things. And there was a French military dude who just burst out laughing. And he said, you think in the fog of war when we think about those things? We have an equation we run. We have an equation we run. And we adhere to that equation, because if we don't, we go off and we kill more people than we have to. So yeah, I think it's fine to think in terms of, not to that, but thinking in terms of actually, trying to encode what we really believe in terms of our ethical and moral systems, and bringing them to the machine so the machine actually understands what we're up to and what we should be doing, as opposed to, often what we do.
Let's talk more about what it means to be human. And I do have a question for you, because certainly from a Christian theological perspective, there's an area of thinking theological anthropology. The question is, in the light of God, what does it mean to be human? And it occurs to me that this question comes very clearly, or is certainly asked around these things. And one aspect of your research is creativity. And can an AI really be creative like a human?
So currently not. There are aspects of creativity that can be reproduced really well. So AIs can give tremendous help to humans in generating new ideas, generating inspiration. So in that sense, they can be crucial. But I don't see the true creativity aspect in the sense of producing something equally useful, equally novel, and something truly surprising.
Is this a fundamental difference?
It is in my view, because, so of course, if you think about the recent postmodern directions, then of course you would say there's nothing new under the sun, we are just recreating whatever the Greeks have done a while ago. And so there's a lot of this inspiration out there that can be recombined in new and original ways. That's something that a machine could achieve. However, if we stick to the definition that
rewards the originality of thought, then we are still far away from that, in my opinion. And my co-panelists might contest that.
I want to ask a follow-up question on humanity. I do want to remind our audience that we are going to have some questions. In fact, I have some questions appearing for me right now on my fancy iPad screen from questions that you have sent in. If you have a question that you would like to put in, you can put that in via the QR code or the URL. To follow up either for any of you, the title of our talk is "Hey Siri, Are You My Friend?" So I asked her if she was my friend. I'll tell you what she said. She said, "What a question. Of course you're my friend." I actually should tell the truth. My friend asked Siri if that was the question. I just got that from him. But what are the perils? So Siri asked like a friend. Nathan, you talked about the facade of human interaction. What are the perils or benefits of having an AI interface that communicates like a human?
And so here I'm going to draw from the work of the scholar Kate Darling, who does research on the psychology of how people relate to systems. So it's incredibly important to remember that behind these systems is not an individual. Behind these systems is a massive corporation that has goals for each of us. In the case of Alexa, I think it was just this week that Jeff Bezos was saying he literally didn't know what to do with the billions of dollars he has, so he was just going to burn it up in rocket fuel because sending things into space was cool. And so that's an important thing to remember because, yes, absolutely, people feel in some cases similar feelings or respond in particularly special ways to machines. We're good at relationships, we're good at conversation. It's a really powerful way to connect between humans and the system. And that's not just about machines. We've known that for a while, why we have customer service representatives and a whole host of what's called emotional labor for interfacing between large institutions and people. And I think what Kate Darling has done in her research is she's looked at how the characteristics or the personality of a particular artificial character influence whether someone is willing to harm that character. You might be less willing to do damage to a system if it presents itself to you in the facade of a person or a human animal. And that it creates a moral dilemma for you because, like, psychologically, you want to be the kind of person that treats the system, or at least another person, well. But it's also a way of kind of manipulating people. Like, if you want to think about it in the most cynical terms. And so we kind of end up with this dual dilemma. And on one hand, how we act towards these systems does shape who we are and how we think we are as a person. When we say thanks to Alexa, and we feel like we're more like a grateful person, that feeling is real. And that's like a good thing. There's a whole ethical tradition of virtue ethics that says that, how you act towards animals or other things like shapes your character. At the same time, that is a vehicle through which institution is attempting to hopefully deliver benefits into your life, but also achieve their goals. And that's a kind of a puzzle that I think all of us will continue to have to puzzle.
And then we have started answering a question that was from our audience, which is if AI is not human, does it matter how we treat that? Do you have any follow-up on it?
I mean, absolutely. I mean, there are these. I understand it depends on where we are. There were some interesting videos of the Boston Dynamics robots. So Boston Dynamics does robots in a lot of different forms. Most of them are quadrupeds, and they're big dog and little dog. And Boston Dynamics often will show you that they're really stable by kicking their robots, which is fun. They kick them, and you watch them, they're loping along, and they kick them, and you watch their legs go out and skew, and they twist, and they turn, and they try to get themselves stable again. Now, the reality of underneath all that is you have a set of techniques for moving forward, for tracking things, for knowing where you're standing, for using the sensors. And when you get kicked, you go into a different kind of mode, which is get me stable mode. Don't let me fall down mode. And it flips like that. Like that. It's not like it thinks about it or considers it or uses it flips, which is to say, it gets startled and gets into a defensive mode. And then you watch them as they climb stairs. And in those instances where they can't see the stairs, their feet go up and they test. You should say they're hesitant. And those are simple things. But the more and more we want them to be like us in terms of living in our world, the more and more we have to give them the gift of that. That is, a machine that actually starts responding to the world because it's afraid of something is not a bad thing, because it'll protect itself from harm. Something that's startled, that's frustrated. And when it's frustrated, it knows it should get into a different mode. All those things are reasonable things for a machine to do. And I think creativity already exists in the machine. It already is there.
Let's ask more about it. Can you expand on that?
Sure. We've had artificial intelligence painters, music makers, poets. Now you look at them. Some of them is doggerel, much of it is written by learning from other. But that's how people do it too. I mean, that's how people do it too. You don't look at someone in the hip hop world and say, "My God, you're sampling." That's not creative. It's like, no, you're sampling. I mean, and there's a great phrase in this. A good artist is somebody who steals from others. A great artist is somebody who steals from himself.
So we have painters. I'm sorry.
And so if you can gather and train, and it's not programming, it's training, it's showing some examples. And even within deep learning, there's a generative aspect of deep learning, which I'm not thrilled with. But it's like, you've seen all these things, now here's a new thing. What does this thing look like in the world you've been learning about? And the generation is interesting and weird and bizarre. And it's not useful yet in many cases. But it will be. And I have to admit, this is like 30 years ago. Part of my dissertation work was I wrote a system that you gave it a couple of ingredients. It would build a Chinese dish for you. It would figure out the recipe, it would try it, and it would fail, it would learn, it would get better and better. And I'm sorry, it was creative. It could do things that I couldn't do.
Ágnes, do you see that as creativity?
I understand the definition of creativity that you are using, and of course, if that's the definition and that's the baseline, then you can say that music creation, some examples, and painting creation is creative in that respect. I guess I'm looking for something that will be equally moving, surprising, unexpected in a given context, in a given receiver's perception, and that's really hard, right?
There's going to be one last thing. And yeah, it's incredibly difficult. But one of my colleagues and I, a few years back, for various reasons, decided, because I got pilloried at one point on the floor of the Senate by John McCain because I had NSF money to work on computational humor. And we actually built a system that you'd give it a word and it would write a script. And it didn't write a script by looking at millions of other scripts. It knew what it meant to write a script. It knew what the structure of a script looked like. And knew how to find things and pull things together. And it wrote a script that it could pump into the eyes of a set of performers. It was surprising, it was novel, it was new. Nobody never thought it would work, and it worked beautifully. It was not by no means perfect. It was by no means good. But it was the first time it tried it. And you give it a word, and it will give you a script. And that, the difference between that and things that read 1 million doing scripts and generating a script, is it knew what it was doing. It had an idea of intent, and it would try to say, I need something funny here that is related to what I just said, and so give me something, try to find something funny. It had rules for funny, and they were okay rules. It's like that's what you need to do. You need to decide you're going to try and do it, and it's not categorically impossible. It's just we haven't done it yet.
Let's ask another question just about humanity from our audience and the definition. And your reference, I think of theologians that have talked about volitionality and rationality as bases of human questions, and you're speaking of humor, so that's another possible. But our question here is, as a Christian, I would consider one of the fundamental characteristics of humans to be the ability to love. Can you see machines reaching the capacity to love? Anything you want to try?
So, here's one of the difficulties, right? Love is special because it's so hard to define. And if you got a room full of psychologists in there, and you're like, what is love? You might have as many definitions as you would have psychologists. And that's just one field, right? And I think one of the challenges with people who work in AI is that in order to design a system, you have to have a really good, either a good definition or a really good set of examples that are constrained and labeled, and you know what it is when you see it, you know what it is when you don't see it, and that means that usually when you hear someone saying, here's a system that can be creative, here's a system that can be intelligent, that can do planning, usually what happens is that a researcher spends a huge amount of time figuring out what they mean by that abstract concept. They operationalize it in some way. And then they figure out the rules or they create a training data set and then build some kind of system. And there's a great essay by Avery on this called Towards the Critical Technical, Socio-Technical Practice. And then what you end up doing is you build a system that performs well according to those characteristics. And you keep using a big complex word that people are looking for at your starting point. And so then you hear people marketing systems as kind of creative, or intelligent, or capable in various ways, and they're much more constrained than we think. I think when people talk about whether a system could love, they're gesturing towards that general AI. And when we hear people talking about actual systems in our world, we tend to be thinking more about those narrow AI systems.
We have so many questions. Can you believe it? We have 5 minutes left. I want to ask this question, just in general for us, and each of our panelists can answer this. Even from the Veritas Forum, looking at how we are looking at artificial intelligence, humanity, and faith. So can Christianity or faith help us navigate difficult questions around AI, and how do you see that as a researcher and personally? So maybe we can have all 3 of us do a little bit to finish up.
I guess I can start out. Absolutely. I think for a few reasons. First, in any democratic society, you would want input from all of society. And these are issues that affect everyone. And we need our collective wisdom, not only to make these decisions about what the system can and cannot do, but also to infuse them with definitions that reflect the full richness of humanity. So whether you're a Christian or not, I think you should hope that people would bring those perspectives and help us understand them as we make sense of artificial intelligence. I think as a Christian, I also have a great number of books. Just this a few months ago, or last month, the Vatican held their very first hackathon. something that I was a minor advisor to. An example of whether it's Protestant Christianity, Catholicism, Christians are recognizing the power of these technologies, and just like people like Chad Vera and others, asking how can they be meaningful in our lives as people of faith, and how can we bless the world through them. And so I would absolutely hope that Christians would bring the perspectives and experiences and theology that have built up over the centuries, in the diversity of theology, not just in the West, but in the majority world, which is the future of Christianity, to embrace the contribution that Christian thought can genuinely make, especially given Christianity's long conversation about justice and the experiences of the marginalized and what it means to live in a society where everyone is equal and everyone is loved.
Chris?
I agree. I think this is we're in a time where sort of all points of view about concerning faith should come into the conversation. I'm going to give you. I'm trying to answer this and make this one answer. I'm going to tell you why I work on what I work on, and why I want AI, and why I think if we're to have AI, you need to actually attend to how systems are genuinely interacting with human beings in a deep and fundamental way. And that is that people worry about. I'm always astounded by this. It's like, well, what happens when AI wins and no one has to work anymore? It's like, what happens to this? And for me, I always wondered why somebody's even asking that question, because it's like if we don't have to work anymore, it's like, well, what will people do? And I always give the same example. There was a father of a 24-year-old autistic man who was at the low end of the functionality on the spectrum in terms of functionality. And his son would go to a home during the day. He would pick him up and they would drive by a Blockbuster video on the way home. He would stop in that Blockbuster every single day and go to the same band of movies, and he would pick one of maybe 20 movies he would grab. They go home and he would watch those movies. And it was the high point of his day. But Blockbuster, going away. It was this Blockbuster was one of the last to go away. And the guy who owned it told me, it wasn't like this was somebody he'd never seen before. The guy who owned it said, it's going away. And so what they did is they took the wall, that was the wall that this man would go to every single day. And they tore it down in a controlled way. They removed it, they took it, and they shipped it over, and they rebuilt it in this guy's home. And he told his son about it, and his son was shaken and it was painful. And he said, but we rebuilt it. And he saw it at home. It was, fantastic. And you look at that and you ask, why don't we do that all the time? Because we don't have time. We don't have time to actually attend to each other, to love each other, to care for each other, because we have to worry about making money to live. We have to worry about the ambition that comes with that often. And we don't have enough in the way of ambition in terms of each other, because we don't have time for it. And I actually look at AI and moving AI forward, and AI taking up more and more of the things that we don't necessarily need to do. And even if it took over everything, it's like, what would we do? We would tend to each other. We would do what we're supposed to do. We would actualize as a species in a way, but we would actualize as a species. And so when I look at AI and think about making it great, that's why. Because I would love to see us actualize as a species.
Wow. to say after that. Actually, I had a similar thought in the sense that I was thinking about how central meaning of work is to push faith. And along the similar lines, I was thinking, okay, so if there's nothing else left, then we are left with observing. So that's our role, right? Observing the world and giving sets of instructions. It's also interesting that there are some parallels between AI and faith and Christian teachings. When you think about who's in charge, questions around the free will, so there are some intersections that I feel like haven't been explored yet and we can talk more about. So that's potentially for the next Veritas Forum.
Please thank our panel.